Hey everybody, welcome back. We're excited to have you. We have a very interesting subject that is just a exclusive to everything that is alternative to YouTube, such as our Odyssey, BitChute, and Rumble accounts, which we'll put in the description below for any of you that happen to see us somewhere else. Today, I am shocked at the rhetoric that is being just forced propaganda onto the masses, with people coming out and high government officials saying that if you have not had a medical procedure that does not meet the definitions of a true vaccine, you are not allowed into social places. You cannot visit your loved ones in a nursing home. You cannot go into the hospitals. You cannot eat, which means a death sentence. You cannot go to restaurants or to grocery stores. That level of thought process is dangerous beyond comprehension. And I am literally, I know people use that word a lot, literally, but I am literally confused and just bumfuzzled at how in the world that the population does not rise up and say that is insane. That is medical tyranny, unlike the world has ever known, or at least known history. And wow, Mr. Schmidt, what do you think about governments around the world suggesting and even enforcing in some places not being able to go to a grocery store to get your necessities for life? How do you have, if your stomach is growling even after a couple of days of fasting, sooner or later you need to eat? How can you continue to develop your soul and your spirituality and become a better person if you are not allowed to eat?
You know, there's some interesting points that we can go from. You know, in the American Revolution, there's only 1% that started a revolution and less than 3% fought in it. So if you can't go to the grocery store, that will give rise to putting pressure on the grocery stores like Walmart or Kroger, or any of the ones that you shop at, to do delivery. So if more and more people put the burden on those places to deliver instead of you go getting whatever done, if you put the pressure on the big corporations and make the big corporations funnel the changes, that's the first thing that you can do, is being as kind of just a passive aggressive, because I don't think this is going to be solved with outright aggression. So we have to start with some kind of passive aggression. And the first thing we can do is put the pressure on the big corporations. We should stop watching the news channels that force us down our throats. We should start supporting the people that are telling us that this is wrong. Like Rand Paul got on the other day and did a 15-minute speech on that you do not have to observe these things. You don't have to be forced back into these lockdowns to stand up for what's right. And then you got the governor of Texas, Abbott, says that there will be no forced lockdowns. You have the governor of Florida that had no forced lockdowns. That his state was one of the only states in the past 6 months that have had any profitability. You know, they had big outdoor concerts and they were running things as normal. Or the places like Mexico that have went this whole thing saying, oh, you know, come here and be free. They're the countries that have had the biggest boom in tourism. They're the countries that have been on the up on this whole thing. You know, there's got to be people that first stand up and make a move. And it can start out small. They've forced us back in this position by doing small increments where they say, okay, you do this for 2 weeks or 6 weeks, and then it goes on a little bit longer. Well, then you got your second round of lockdowns for 2 or 6 weeks. Well, now you've changed everybody's normalcy bias, and this is normal now, where it used to not be normal. For instance, just a couple years ago, literally 2 years ago, the flu, cold, all these things were commonplace. Nobody thought anything about it. You had a flu during the summer. You know, Bob's got a flu. He's going to get over it. Now it's just one illness. No matter what you have or what you think you have, it all goes to this certain illness that's tested through this one form. Why is it tested that way? Well, look at who is in bed with whom. The companies that give you your news, have at least a 30% stake in these companies that are telling you to get vaccinated. There's also all these laws that we've went and put great pains into putting into act, like HIPAA, that are being completely and utterly violated. I mean, people should stand up for their rights as a person. Use spiritual rights, for instance. There's so many places that you can say, hey, it's against my religion to do this, and they can't question you. Especially in this country, we still have a grand, I guess it's a history of religious freedom and non-religious persecution. And I think the people that are against this should stand on the backs of those people that have given us those freedoms of religion and use that as your buffer for doing what you want to do, for being the way you want to be, for trying to bring things back to your normal, to not being told what you can and can't do, because this is religious and spiritual persecution on a grand scale. There's all these people that'll tell you that it's not spiritual and religious persecution, but again, look who they're in bed with. It's religious and spiritual persecution. It is against my spirituality to be forced into a corner.
That is, you just mentioned 4 extraordinarily important just bullet points that I'd like to expand on. And one was your first one was food delivery. It has to start somewhere. So if you want to push the issue, then push the issue with these food delivery services, which you're limited, which does restrict rural America in a large part from getting those deliveries, unless you're ordering, so you can get dry goods. And
well, you can get pickup in store and they bring it to your car.
Yeah, you can do, not in all places, but some. A lot of people are still going to be forced into extreme hardship. But that is a good starting point, and I agree with you on that. We all have to start somewhere. I don't know how we force that with, nursing homes. Your spouse has to get some type of non-elective surgery that is required, to sustain their life. They got some kind of heart problem, which is the most common form of disease in the United States. These are big issues. And then you mentioned Mexico, how Mexico has been so free. They're starting to limit some of that, but not near as much as the rest of the world. And it's something that I've been saying for years, like many years, I guess probably 10 or 12 years, is that the wall to keep immigrants out was never, that was the selling point. Keep immigrants away. That was never the point. It is to keep citizens inside.
I don't want to diverge too much, but you can always judge at how well a country is doing by how many people want to get into it. Right before the fall of Soviet Russia, USSR, there was no people banging on the gates trying to get in. They were trying to get out. So I think we should welcome immigrants, but we shouldn't give them away all this free stuff. They should come here to work. But that's a whole nother topic.
That's a whole nother topic. I'm talking about the wall specifically. Is not to keep them out, because we don't keep them out. It is to keep us in. And Mexico is much freer at the moment than we are here, which is a big irony, since we are the land of the free, supposedly, which we are the land of the unfree and under medical tyranny is what it is. It is medical tyranny for an experimental, for us all to be experimental guinea pigs. It is absolutely outrageous. And you are right with the normalcy bias, which was your other point. The propaganda is so pervasive that it was so easy to get people to even forget about the common cold or the flu. You get any sniffles, oh God, I better run and go get tested. Oh, I got to get tested now. But tested for what? There's a 99.9% survival rate. You have a cold. These things have been around forever, and they're going to continue to be around forever. None of which justifies forcing people to get an unproven medical procedure without all the information. And the major guys, I mean, y'all can look this up. It's everywhere. You can go to Grand Theft World. There's a lot of places. The Highwire with Dale Bigtree. A lot of places with the head guys of Pfizer. And Pfizer even said Israel is our lab rat experiment because the majority of people have taken this jab, and now they're having just a huge spike in cases.
Well, let me stop you there, because if you go back to any mass vaccination campaign, and these are facts that you can look up, they're well documented, look at the diseases that were being vaccinated against. Almost every time the vaccine and mass vaccination campaigns did absolutely nothing to see the disease fall, or is in the case that's happened now, which is more often than not, there's a bounce and there's actually a spike in cases where it goes higher than originally. Now, you take that information however you want, because I'm not going to tell you how to think. I'm just asking you to think and to look it up for yourself.
You make a very valid point, but to have this medical tyranny is something, and to say the normalcy bias is that people have forgotten just recently that you could get the flu or cold. I was talking with someone this morning when I was running some errands before our fantastic church and our spiritual gathering, and they were talking about how they had two friends that were sick. One was in the hospital for 28 days, and I said, well, and they were talking about, he had the COVID and he was doing bad, and I said, well, what are his because I don't know this person, the one they were really worried about, what were his underlying medical issues before this? And they were talking about how he was over 300 pounds. He had started to starve himself to start to lose weight. He had lost 60 to 80 pounds, really in a hurry, which is very bad for your body. Still obese, shocking his body, and then he gets a flu, and of course he's in the hospital. Who knows what of course he has diabetes, he has heart issues, all these things. And people forget that we had tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people dying of the flu every year. And those things just go out of the window in today's world because of the normalcy bias that you mentioned.
The normalcy bias, for the last 20 years, the leading cause of death in the United States was heart disease, because we have the most overweight population on the planet. Have you looked at the heart disease numbers for 2020 or 2021? They're non-existent.
Well, what's really, neither was the flu last year. There are almost no cases of the flu, which is, come on, people, let's start thinking. Instead, we say and agree with it, whether we are in silence or whether we support it, is that, hey, if you don't have this experimental medical procedure, then you can't go buy the necessities freely in where you normally shop. That is insanity. That is tyranny on a large, grand scale. It's something. And, one thing that we pride ourselves on here is that we are extremely pro-individual, and we promote the individual, and we believe that if the individual is living to its highest and best potential, then we should be able to instantly with that, it automatically goes without saying, makes a better community. It makes a better life for everyone around somebody who is doing better for himself or herself. It's just the nature of things. The collective is better if everyone is an individualist. It's just better. And that is why we promote such religious freedom here. And if y'all are out there anywhere and you live nearby, come join us, because here we will issue medical, what do they call it now, Mr. Smith? You get a medical exemption.
Yeah, medical exemption cards.
Yeah, due to religion. Mm-hmm. And our religion is we are extremely anti-experimental medical procedures without your consent to be able to go anywhere. That is insanity to us. There's no way you can grow individually and grow your spirit and have use your valuable, limited leisure time to meditate, to grow with your family, and to grow and contemplate your own life and become a better person. That you have limited time for that. And if you're in those limited hours, you're trying to figure out how you're going to get food to your family, even though you have the money, you can't go get it. That's a big problem. And feel free to come join us if you are of like mind. We are happy to issue your religious exemptions. Mr. Schmidt, you have anything else to add?
I think that's all on that note. We wanted to keep it pretty straight and to the point. Join us on all of our other topics. Our website is up and online, mysticsoftexas.com, and have a good day.